So let's get into stuff they talked about.
Yeah, let's do it.
So first up, a couple of maps enhancements, more bike lane stuff. Obviously, the sort of general improvements to Google Maps you expect. But one of them was eco-friendly routes. So now you can choose the fastest route or the route with no tolls or whatever other best route you want. This new one is eco-friendly route, which is cool. I don't know if I'm ever going to select that intentionally.
That was my first thought of the eco-friendly route is like, I'm always glad anyone's doing anything that makes things more eco-friendly, but I'm trying to think of like the number you would see on your Google Maps where you get, this will take 40 minutes and then the eco route takes 45 minutes. I think even 5 minutes, people are going to pick the just faster route.
Yeah,
like,
typically.
It always sounds good to do eco. Like, you feel good about yourself, but most of the times when you're driving, you just want to get there as fast as possible. And I don't know what number people are going to not choose eco on.
You know, it's funny. I use Waze now almost all the time for any navigation. And Waze, even though Google owns Waze, Waze is a little bit more hyper, like, aggressive about saving you, like, 30 seconds to a minute and a half. So, like, if there's even a sniff of traffic on your usual route, it'll go a bunch of back routes to get you, like, you know, around that one block of traffic. Yeah. And it's, like, fine sometimes, but I've noticed it gets a little bit crazy. So, I don't know if you use Waze, but
no, but first of all, Waze, the UI itself, I just like Google Maps feels way more clean.
Waze is very ugly.
Yeah. But Claire and I actually have this like little conspiracy that, do you know when you're on Google Maps and if you're driving, it'll say like similar ETA or it usually is either similar ETA or it'll be like 5 minutes faster, 5 minutes slower. We're convinced that any 5 minute difference they don't add, because then you might be like wondering if you should click on the new route or not if it's just a 1 minute difference.
Oh, yeah.
And if like that is turning into a safety issue of like somebody trying to decide whether they should take this turn to save 1 minute.
I believe so.
So negligible.
Yeah. Now, so Google will do that. Waze will just take the
Waze will be like, you better get off now or you're going to lose 30 seconds.
It'll actively reroute me. I'll be coming up to an exit and it'll be like, nah, you know what? Take this exit. And I bet that's just going to save me 1
Jersey
minute.
slide right now.
It'll do it. And you know what? I'm fine with that. That's Waze for you. Okay, one of the interesting things I asked Sundar about was Project Lambda. So this is weird. They went on stage and they demonstrated a little bit more. Every year they get a little better with understanding context and conversation with AI, and Assistant gets better as a result.
Yeah.
But they literally used information from the internet to create a character that you can then speak to and have a conversation with. So it's kind of like Deepfake with audio and information. So basically you go, and they use Pluto and a paper airplane. So you could walk up. You could just go, hey, Project Lambda, let me talk to Pluto. And Pluto goes, hi, I'm Pluto. What do you want to know? And you go, you know, Pluto, what's it like being so far from the sun? And Pluto goes, oh, I'm just an ice ball. And it knows everything about Pluto.
Tell me what I would see if I visited.
You would get to see a massive canyon, some frozen icebergs, geysers, and some craters.
And it was really interesting to see that. And the first place my brain went was like, all right, this reminds me of deepfakes. How far are they going to push this? What are you going to be doing with Project Lambda in the future? Am I going to be able to talk to Elvis? Because they know everything about Elvis. Can I ask about Elvis's controversial past and it'll give me an answer from something that Google knows about?
It's a
Elvis?
Regular conversation everyone has with their friends.
I don't know. And maybe there's living people you want to like have conversations with, even though you can't. But then also it's going to give answers that living person might not give. So I don't know. I felt like it was a really, as Sundar put it, they gave the most benign examples, which is like, what's it like to be a paper airplane? Oh, I'm sure like a 9-year-old would want to have that conversation. But Project Lambda to me immediately goes to like, all right, you can simulate a conversation with anything. What's it like being, I don't know, some crazy person?
He was very adamant about saying how it's still just research and it's not like necessarily a final product. But like you said, I wonder what is going to be that final product. And maybe we look back to something like, what was the name of the like assistant that could make you a dinner reservation or?
Oh, Google Assistant. It was just inside of Assistant. It would let you like, it would call a restaurant for you and reserve a table if it couldn't do it through OpenTable or whatever other reservation.
Didn't that project have like a name?
Probably did, and it didn't duplex. There you go.
Okay. Cool.
Duplex, and they've made adjustments to duplex since then. But yeah, Sundar said it's just to make conversation better with Assistant, and also for better context of understanding things inside of the rest of the web. For example, if I ask about, and YouTube kind of does this, but if you search a tutorial on YouTube, like how to change the filter in your sink or something, or your refrigerator, Google will pull up a YouTube video for you, and then it will pull up little brackets for a section inside the video that's most relevant to your search.
I've missed this completely.
It's really useful sometimes. Like because you know how a tutorial will open with, "Hi, my name is, please subscribe, blah, 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 blah." And by the time you get to 2.5 minutes, you're like, I didn't need to watch any of this. I just needed the thing. So it'll tell you, watch from 1.5 to 2 minutes for the thing you searched for, which is pretty useful already.
Wait. When did they start doing this?
This was years ago for me. Every time I search, I look up a lot of tutorials and how-tos and things like that.
And it auto plays in that bracket, or just
Yep. You hit the play button and it starts right from the beginning of the bracket. So if you search for just the right thing, which is sort of a how-to, it will get.
Do you
really
think that's
good at
ever
that.
affected any of your videos on like searching for iPhone 12 camera, and like it would bring up your iPhone video and then just bracket the camera section?
I don't think my videos are specific enough to that, but I wouldn't be surprised if something like Lambda would watch the video and be able to deliver that sort of information. Because I give chapters in my videos now, which I'm sure they can already look at, but I think this is something they could do better.
I'm learning more from this than
So yeah, that was cool to see. I think it'll get better. So we'll just wonder what they're gonna let us use and have conversations with,
and hopefully it doesn't get too creepy.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a lot of creep potential on Lambda.
I have accepted that my deepfake ability is extremely high, and there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, you've already had videos of you singing songs and stuff like that, and while we thoroughly enjoy them in the office, they are kind of weird.
If you just think about like what types of people will be the easiest to deepfake. People who have a lot of high resolution videos of them online, like the president, because he's photographed and videoed from every angle, or people who voluntarily upload 8K videos of themselves from here to here on the internet.
Didn't Dave do a video where he did you and Lou? Yeah, he deepfaked himself as you and Lou from Unbox.
Oh man, I barely remember that.
I'll have to find it.
But just as deepfake technology gets better and better, they're just going to have more and more information to pull from. Like you have a decade of videos of the front of my face and high resolution audio of me talking, saying like thousands and thousands of words. And this podcast is just even more of that. So I've just accepted that, I think. All right, a couple more things from I.O. Google and Samsung merging Wear OS and Tizen on a new smartwatch software experience. It's cool. It looked really good. Yeah. But there's no hardware yet.
No.
I really want to see the hardware.
I think like one of the main questions I get asked by people who know I work here is like, is there going to be a new Google Watch? Like, when are we getting a Google Watch? And, you know, this isn't necessarily a Google Watch, but we're seeing Samsung, who a lot of people really, really enjoy their watches, and them coming together, which hopefully means something's coming in the future. And it has potential as well. They're saying it's going to have improved battery life, faster loading times for apps, smoother animations. It also makes developers' lives way easier because now you just have one platform to develop on between two of them.
That's important.
And then there's also the other thing they mentioned was standalone Google Maps without the need of a cell phone, which is awesome. And then Spotify's got offline downloads for music. So this like sounds like really, really good things if you use your watch for fitness and you're going for runs and you don't, you know, have your phone with you to stay connected to. But like you said, no hardware. I mean, Samsung's been doing great with hardware. I think there's some talk of maybe a new Google Watch, but when is there not talk of a new Google Watch coming out of nowhere?
Yeah, but they've been rumbling for a while, and I feel like this is the year for them to do it, especially if Pixel happens the way we think Pixel's going to happen, which is they have their own silicon and they're starting to vertically integrate more, and they launch a watch alongside it. Like, that would all sort of make sense this year. I guess every year it doesn't happen. It makes even more sense for them to do it that year, but I'm just saying, I think this is a good year for that. I also, every time I review the Apple Watch, like to look on the other side of the fence and see if there's anything anywhere close. And I reviewed the OnePlus Watch lately, and it's not close. So, seriously, yeah, I'm excited for this. cameras being aware of different skin tones. I really was interested in this one. So photography, how far back do I go with this? How deep do I go? Photography in standard cameras is pretty straightforward. There's not a whole lot of computation happening. Smartphone cameras with computational photography make a lot of adjustments and smart decisions based on the data that the sensor gathers. So they'll take a bunch of exposures and do different, merging of different areas based on the exposure. So highlights will use part of the exposure and shadows will come from a different shot and faces. And then they start to get even more like intense where they'll take like the frame where you're smiling where the background is empty because there's no lady walking blurred in the background. So they're starting to merge realities into one frame. So the photos that come out of our smartphones are actually representative of the development that goes into them. And something at least I've always noticed is a lot of smartphones have trouble, especially on the selfie camera, with darker skin tones, especially when there's a lot of bright objects around. You'll just sort of become a shadow. And so specifically on Google on stage, they decided and announced that they would be adjusting for darker skin tones and trying to make those more accurate, specifically because people with darker skin didn't feel correctly represented in their photos. And this is weird because it's just something I like accepted for a while. I was like, smartphone cameras are just going to do the best they can for the average skin tone, which is much lighter, and that's just the way it is. And if my skin tone's darker than that, I'm just going to look like not quite right in photos, and that's just something I've just accepted. And so Google making that conscious adjustment, and I hope to see it actually in action pretty soon, was really cool.
Yeah, a couple things I'm interested in is like one, how well it does when then there are multiple skin tones. I can only assume they're not doing this to just be like recognize one person in the photo has darker skin and then adjust everything around it. I'm assuming they're just going to be able to adjust parts of photos in order to correctly, expose everything. I'm really excited, especially if this comes out this year. My favorite video every year is the smartphone bracket. And
the blind smartphone camera test.
Exactly. And one of the first shots we always do is a photo of you. And it's generally in a pretty well lit, could consider bright space. And it's always the most wildly different because phones from all over the place just completely have a mind of their own in terms of how they're going to expose things. I mean, it gets to the point where I think iPhone last year or 2 years ago just like blew everything.
That's where you see computational photography at work. It's like the iPhone has decided that it wants to turn a certain thing white, or it needs to turn a certain thing neutral. And once it's decided that, the whole rest of the frame just sort of falls in step with that decision.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the ones that were taking the best photos were just the ones not getting thrown off by too many different stimuli in the photo. So one of the earliest photos we always take was one of the most telling. So maybe this
we'll see how
it just rolls out in a Google Photos update sometime soon. This is the other thing about I/O is almost every single thing they announced on stage was like coming later this year, coming early next year, coming in the upcoming months. Like we didn't really get dates for any of these things, which is a little worrying.
Some of them you just feel like it's you'll never see this again for the rest of your life. Like the
we keep referencing
fence,
we keep referencing the chain link fence, which was a software Google Photos feature.
2017, I think.
It was announced on stage and it had a big wow moment on stage, and then it just straight up never happened.
Just never.
I have photos of chain link fences on my phone.
Saving them for when it comes out.
Someday they'll get rid of the fence, but it was announced and never happened. So I guess that's the nature of software, but that's interesting to me to see how that goes. Another one. Do you want to talk about this one? Google Photos animating.
Before we get to Android 12, I just like threw this in. They had that like small section of like animated Google Photos where it would take your photos and pretty much animate them. And I just want to say it was really weird and creepy. And
just to paint a picture, it's another just like blurring of reality.
Is it taking like a live photo and kind of doing, or is it doing the thing where it like, how you can take a singular photo and kind of like distort the perspective a little bit and it looks like somebody's moving? Is that? Yeah.
So this is basically taking advantage of the fact that most people actually take a bunch of photos of a single scene. And that's kind of the way it goes. Like a bunch of people get in front of a wall and you just fire. And you take like 8, 9, 10 photos and you only really need one of them. But Google's noticed people don't really use the rest, and if they look at all of those photos, there might be like a pattern of something. Someone flips their hair, someone, walks into the photo, something cool happens, and then they'll just make an animation out of that. And they've kind of been doing that in Google Photos. I think I have a video or a slideshow of Mac doing something, because I take like 12 photos of Mac trying to get him to look at the camera, and then he looks at the camera, and then you have this like 20 photo long sequence of him not looking at the camera. Now I'm just going to have an automatic Google animation of Mac just looking at the camera like that, which is a little creepy.
It's going to be really funny when those ones like bug out and it's like 5 pictures, but the 5th one or like one in the middle is Mac like whipping his head to the wrong side, and just like the animation is Mac turning his head, and then it just like
his head
distorts
like melting
completely the wrong direction.
Man, yeah,
that'll be, if that ever happens, it's just gonna have a lot of meme potential, I feel like.
True.
And some people are gonna think it's really cool and then show their friends once and never use it again. I think I would chalk that in that category.